So we're gonna have a preparation for Shavuos. We're gonna talk about what Torah learning, the importance of Torah learning, the concept of Matan Torah, reception of the Torah, how we can best prepare ourselves for the reception of the Torah. These are all the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. So the basic question we have to ask ourselves is, what is the Torah? Why did Hashem give us the Torah? You know, when Moshe Rabbeinu ascended to Shemayim, the angel said, like, who is man, who is Ben Adam, that they should receive the Torah? This was something that at least the angels thought shouldn't be given over to man. Yet we see that the Torah was given over to us. So what is the Torah? Why did Hashem give us the Torah? What are we trying to accomplish when we learn Torah? So we have to go back to the basics. Back to the basics. So everyone who's ever heard from the Mashal knows Hashem created us, and he wanted us to be involved in the process of earning what's called shleimus, perfection. Hashem wanted us to be involved in that process, whereby we refine both our physical, emotional, intellectual part of ourselves and become as close to shleimus, as close to perfection as we can get. And shleimus, perfection, is defined as closest to Hashem. So in order to reach that goal, Hashem had to give us the tools to perfect ourselves, right? A person who, an inmate cannot get himself out of the jail cell. He needs someone from outside to get him out, or some access to outside in order to get him out. The idea is that we need a tool coming from outside of our limited sphere of creation, limited sphere of physicality, to help us reach beyond and transcend beyond our natural physical limitations. That tool, of course, is the Torah, the mitzvahs, and that was what Hashem gave over to us. The Maharal asks an amazing question. He says, we know, why is a person called an Adam, a man, Adam? So one of the explanations Chazal give, well, really, Torah itself says it, because mina ha'adama, he came from the Adama. Torah itself says. So it's a very funny thing. There are a lot of animals that also came from the Adama, from the ground. And yet, all these other animals were not called Adam. Only the human being was. So it seems to not really make so much sense. I mean, why don't we call the elephant an Adam? Why don't we call the giraffe an Adam? It's only man. Yet all these other animals also came from the ground. So why was this name most befitting for man? So the Maharal says an incredible answer. He says, the ground is, from the ground sprouts forth vegetation, fruits, vegetables, all are produced in the ground. The ground has what he refers to as a koach of sprouting, a koach of tzmicha, of sprouting forth. A man, a human being, an Adam, in as much as he has the potential to actualize himself, also has this koach of sprouting, of growth. So that is why, says the Maharal, that the human being, the Adam, is called Adam. So we're here to bring forth a potential that Hashem gave to us, and the means, the tool that we have to reach that potential is the Torah. In addition, right, so that's Torah in a way as a tool for us to use. Torah, we can reach shleimus, we can gain closest to Hashem. But at the same time, there's another aspect of Torah. Torah said is the blueprint of creation. Istakel b'raisa by Alma. Hashem looked into Torah, and with the Torah, he created the world. In a sense, the Torah is called a craftsman. The Torah is actually referred to as a craftsman. The Torah was the tool Hashem used to create the world. Chazal bring a lot of facts in right now, and we're going to hopefully bring it all together. But for now, we'll just bring a lot of facts, and hopefully we'll get some understanding, some Havana, and we'll try to apply what we learned to our Shavuos Avodah, to our Avodah Lamaisa on when it comes to Shavuos. So for now, I'm just bringing ideas, Chazals that talk about Torah, and I'm going to hopefully build something with that. So the first words in the Torah, it says Bereshis. So Chazal, really in the Zohar and elsewhere, they darshan, they make limudim, drashas, based on the word Bereshis. One of the drashas they say, it says, you can really break up the word Bereshis into two words. Bara, created, shis, which is the sixth. He created the sixth. What's that referring to? Chazal say when it says Hashem was bara shis, he created the sixth, it's referring to a day. He created the sixth. He created the sixth day. What's the sixth day? The sixth of Sivan. The sixth of Sivan is Shavuos, the day the Jewish people received the Torah. Hashem was bara shis. Shavuos is alluded to, the sixth day of Sivan, is alluded to in the first word of the Torah. That's the holy day of Shavuos. And Chazal say further, really, because the world was actually hanging in limbo, hanging in a balance, hanging in limbo until that day. Until the sixth day of Sivan, the world was hanging in a balance. And Hashem didn't know, if it could be Hashem, didn't know, would the world last or not? Is the world really going to continue existing or not? And it seems to be that it was all dependent on this day. On this holy day of Shavuos, it was all dependent on that. Are the Jewish people going to be willing to accept the Torah or not? If the Jewish people would be willing to accept the Torah, that's great. The world can continue on existing. If not, the world would cease to exist. Lastly, there's a medrash. Like I said, I'm just bringing a lot of facts. So if it seems confusing, overwhelming, I'm just bringing a lot of facts. So we're going to hopefully bring out a few important points here. So there's a medrash in Medrash Rabbah in Parshas Truma, where Chazal say it compares the Torah to an acquisition, or a person acquires an item. He acquires a piece of jewelry or a field. He acquires a certain item in business. And it compares the Torah to such an acquisition. It says, unlike when you buy a particular item, all you get is that particular item. When it comes to Torah, a person who acquires Torah gets many different items all in one. The Torah is compared to gold. The Torah is compared to silver. The Torah is compared to a field. The Torah is compared to a vineyard. All these different things, and all in one. To top it off, the Medrash concludes, it says a very interesting thing. It says, when a person acquires an item, does he acquire the owner of the item along with the item? Of course not, right? You go to the grocery store and you buy a pack of broccoli, let's say, and you pay for it at the cash register. You don't also take home the man at the cash register. You only get the package of broccoli, right? You're not also taking home, or the owner of the grocery. You only get the thing that you buy. He says when it comes to Torah, the Medrash says, when it comes to Torah, not only you get the Torah, you also get the creator of the Torah. You get Kaviyachal, you get Hashem. That's what it says. When a person acquires the Torah, they're not just getting the Torah, they're getting Hashem with the Torah. To understand that, the Medrash says an amazing mashal. Every mashal has a king. Mashal the melech. There's a melech that had a daughter, an only daughter. And it became time for her to marry. So melech had there was a neighboring melech, let's say, another king, maybe in a far off country, who came and he married this king's daughter. And he was very happy about this wedding. Until it became time for the groom to bring his new wife back to his kingdom. At which point the king became very sad. And he said, I can't tell you not to go because she's your wife. But I can't be separated from her. I can't be separated from my daughter, says the king. I need to stay with my daughter. So what am I supposed to do? Therefore, I'll ask of you, my son-in-law, a favor. Let me travel with you, and wherever you go, I'll tag along. Not sure how this would work in, for showing bias nowadays. I'm not recommending any father-in-law do this, but it's a mashal. So Hashem gave his most treasured possession. Hashem's most treasured possession is the Torah. In fact, the Torah existed prior to creation of the world. It says the Torah came before even Hashem's kisei hakavod, whatever that means. The Torah is Hashem's most prized possession. He gave over the Torah to the Jewish people. Right? That's what we say. We say, Torah lo b'shamayim. The Torah is not in heaven. It came down and it's here for us. And Hashem says, I can't bear to be parted from the Torah. So Hashem says, therefore, build me a Mishkan. Build me the Mishkan. We had a Mishkan in the desert. We have the Mikdash, the base of Mikdash in Yerushalayim. Maybe rebuilt speedily. So Hashem says, I want to dwell amongst the Jewish people. And the reason the Medrash says is because Hashem loves the Torah. He can't bear to be separated from the Torah. And that's why Hashem so desires to dwell amongst the Jewish people. And as much as we possess the Torah, Hashem wants to dwell amongst us. So I'm pointing that what I'm trying to bring out from all of these sources that I'm saying is that the Torah has its root in a very, very high place. It existed prior to creation. It's something Hashem values in and of itself, even before it was given to the Jewish people. The Torah is a very, very lofty creation that we have to actually set aside time and focus on understanding what this creation is. What is the Torah? And of course, there's Sfarim that go through that talk about how holy the Torah is, statements from the Zohar, the Arizal, the Baal Shem Tov, the Tzaddikim, all of these Tzaddikim who tell us what the value of the Torah is and how we can apply it to our life. So this brings me to, how are we supposed to use our Shavuos? What is Shavuos about, right? Everyone knows it's about Matan Torah. We're the day that commemorates the day we received the Torah, the 6th of Sivan, when the Jewish people stood on Har Sinai and we received the Torah. How are we supposed to receive the Torah? What does that mean? How do we make use of this very special day? So I want to bring out maybe a few avodas, a few actions that we can really take to make use of this special day, how we can make it a very, very powerful and lasting experience. So the first thing is already what I've been alluding to. Chazal says something very interesting. It says Hashem really only teaches wisdom to the wise. Wisdom can only be taught to the wise. Why? Because a wise person values wisdom, and therefore he can accept that wisdom. He's able to accept that wisdom, to learn that wisdom. He'll work hard at that wisdom. But a person who doesn't already value wisdom, he can't come to appreciate it. He'll never invest the necessary time and energy to acquire that wisdom. So the Torah is the same way. So we have to, the first step on Shavuos is to go through the basics, to remember Hashem gave us the Torah. The Torah is beyond anything we can possibly imagine. Its value, its root is rooted in such a lofty realm that it's not something we can comprehend. Hashem, literally in a certain sense, put himself into the Torah. That's why the name, when Hashem says Anoichi, it's Rosh Tevos, it's the beginning of each, the word Anoichi is the Rosh Tevos of a certain phrase. It says, Ana nafshi ksavas yahos. I gave myself over in the Torah. The Torah is almost like, it's like mind the Mashal, that like a supplement of godliness in your life. It's like taking a supplement, a very strong supplement of godliness into your life. So a person should reflect on these lofty traits of the Torah, of what his avodah is when it comes to the Torah, the incredible obligation upon every person to have a connection to the Torah. That when Chazal say, or really David HaMelech, sorry, when David HaMelech says in Tehillim, he says, Nechamadim mizav mipazrov. He said the Torah is more valuable than a great treasure. It's more valuable than even gold. And reflect to yourself, do I really feel that? Like if someone would offer me a case full of $1 million, that would get me excited. If someone offers me a Mishnah Yomi class or a Daf Yomi class, does that get me so excited? So in a certain sense, that shows that I'm not fully connected to Chazal's perspective on the Torah. And I need to bridge that gap somehow. If a person would have a full yishuv adas, a full sense of clarity about his purpose in the world, for him, he'd be more excited about the Daf Yomi class than he would be about the suitcase full of gold. And if a person doesn't feel that yet, it's okay. I'm going to put in work a few minutes every day, let's say, to reflect on that and to internalize that idea. Because anyone could learn these ideas intellectually, and there's Svarim full of these ideas, English Svarim, Hebrew Svarim, that talk about the value of the Torah. But to bridge that gap between just being intellectual knowledge and to make it something that I live by, something that I internalize, is a very far gap. So what I'm trying to say is when we internalize these ideas, when we reflect on these ideas, it won't just be a cliche to us anymore, right? We hear the rabbi say, Torah, 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 it's so important, everyone learn Torah. Okay, so it's a cliche at this point. Most people, even for me, it's a cliche. Like, oh, Torah is really important. It's a cliche. It becomes cliche after a while. But David HaMelech is literally saying this is more important, this is more valuable than all the treasures of the world. Do I feel that or not? Is that something I live with or not? Shavuos is about getting to that place where that's my life. I actually value the Torah more than all other worldly pursuits, more than all other worldly pleasures, more than everything else. So if a person uses Shavuos to jumpstart his journey towards a strong relation to the Torah, that would be an amazing use of the of Shavuos. Right, David HaMelech, he says, Acha sha'alti meis Hashem osa avakesh, shifti v'veis Hashem. David HaMelech says, I want one thing. I want one thing, not a lot of money, not a big empire, all the different things David HaMelech could have, or could aspire to have. So no, I want one thing. Shifti v'veis Hashem kol yimei chayei. I want to sit in the Beis Hashem. I want to go to the Beis Medrash, sit down and learn. David HaMelech was the biggest masmid we imagine. Right? We think of him as a warrior, that's true. We think of him as a king, that's also true. But how was he spending his time? He was in the Beis Medrash with the Gemara, with the Zohar, whatever he was learning. But he was up to his neck in Torah the whole day. So we have to learn from the tzaddikim that this is how they spent their time. This is what interested them. And the more we can internalize that on Shavuos, the stronger relationship we'll have towards Torah. So the first step, like I said, is having a value for Torah and having a desire to learn Torah. And every person, wherever a person is holding right now, they can always become more and more connected to Torah. Wherever you are, you can always do more, you can always connect more. Which brings me to the next step, which is davening. The Shlah HaKadosh, one of the great 16th century mystics, philosopher, I don't know exactly how to describe the Shlah, but his Svarim are incredible. He's on everything. The Shlah HaKadosh says that on Shavuos, we're judged for how much Torah we will learn and understand in the coming year. Right? It's almost like a Rosh Hashanah for Torah. That's what the Shlah says. So what do we do on Rosh Hashanah? So Rosh Hashanah is the new year, and we treat it as a Yom Hadin. It's a Yom Hadin for all of the physical aspects of our life. Who's going to live, who's going to die, how much parnasa, how much money we're going to be allocated that year. So we daven, we call out to Hashem, we daven to ask Hashem, give us a good judgment. These are our needs, this is what we need in the coming year. On Shavuos, we have a similar avodah in front of us. We realize that Torah is the most important thing in our life. Maybe we only intellectually realize it. It may still be a cliche to us, but we realize that in some sense intellectually. So now we have to beg Hashem, help me to increase my knowledge of Torah, help me to increase my memory of the Torah, help me to increase the focus that I can have while I'm learning Torah, help me to actually love learning Torah. Anything that a person is lacking in his relationship with Torah, on Shavuos is a special time he can daven for those things. Since it's the day he's going to be judged for how much Torah he'll learn that year, how much Torah he'll remember and understand in the coming year. So on Shavuos, he can daven and daven and daven to Hashem, help me get to a different level, help me get to a higher level, help me be more committed. Because the rule is, anything, you can daven for anything. And Hashem loves our tefillahs even when we're davening for physical things. But how much more does he enjoy our tefillahs when we're davening for things that are spiritual in nature? So we can daven for things, even spiritual things, for more yiras shamayim. But in this context, for more Torah, for more focus on Torah, that we should love Torah, that it should be sweet when we learn it, we should enjoy it, it shouldn't feel like a burden, we should have more energy and focus for it, that the Hebrew shouldn't make us feel like we're banging our heads against the wall. All of these things, anything that's giving us a problem or holding us up in our growth in Torah, we can daven for to get past that hurdle. So davening is the second tool. Again, first step, first avodah on Shavuos is we want to have value. We want to know the true value of the Torah. We want to internalize it. The second step, second avodah on Shavuos, and we have 2 full days to do this, whether we're doing it in our personal prayers after Shona Esrei, or whether we set aside some time in our day to have a few minutes alone with Hashem to ask Him for these things. But davening is the next step. Davening is the next avodah that we have on Shavuos. So we just had, me on the third one now, we just had Parshas B'chukoisai. So it's a very famous, the first Rashi on the Parsha. Right, the Parsha says, Im b'chukoisai teilechu. If you will go in my chukim, in my decrees, if you will go in the path of my decrees, Hashem says. Then he says, I'm basically going to give you all these great things. What does it mean if you will go in my decrees? Rashi says, maybe you'll think this is referring to kiyum hamitzvahs. Maybe you think this is referring to doing the commandments. But he says that can't be what it means. It can't just mean keeping commandments, because that's already referred to, because it says ve'es mitzvoisai tishmeru. And it's right, the verse itself says, you will keep my commandments. So it must be that im b'chukoisai is referring to something else, right? Because the commandments were already stated somewhere else. So what does it mean? How do I define im b'chukoisai? Rashi says, shetihu amelim l'Torah, that you should work hard and exert yourself in the Torah. Amelis l'Torah is its own separate avodah and something that Chazal spend a lot of time talking about. Amelis in Torah. So what is amelis in Torah? How is a person working hard, sweating over the Torah? It doesn't sound so attractive to us. Not what we want to do. It's much easier to, take it easy, listen to a shiur. You don't have to exert yourself as much. You can kind of listen passively, maybe. So what does it mean to exert yourself in learning? especially a person who maybe doesn't have a yeshiva background, they never had that experience getting to be in the base medrash for 3 or 4 hours at a time. So it can sound very daunting. What does it mean to be to be work hard, exert yourself in Torah? If a person never had that education, how do they do that? So I have 3 ideas. Maybe it'll help. Maybe you can try it. So one thing is, just try to focus for a little longer. Something I do sometimes, I'll time myself. How long can I focus without getting distracted, having to get up or having to do something else? How long can I get to? Do that maybe once a week and see as you get further how much longer you can push it. That way it's almost like you're racing it, you're trying to compete with yourself, trying to achieve a personal best, and how long you can concentrate. And you'll actually get better and better at this. So concentration, being immersed in a subject, that's considered one aspect of a melis of exertion in Torah. A second thing, a person who wants to get more immersed in Torah can write down their questions. If whatever they're learning, maybe they'll have a notebook or something, they can jot down their questions. And when you jot it down, that means the Torah is on your mind, you're thinking about it, you're even in the back of your mind, you're sometimes looking for answers, it's on your mind. That's another aspect of a melis in Torah. A third thing to make Torah, to put more exertion in Torah, is when you learn something new, whether it's in Daf Yomi or a new Mishnah, or you hear a shiur, something like that, try to say it over in your own words. After you learn it, say it over in your own words. It takes a lot of effort, because now you're forced to be actively learning. It's not just a passive act anymore, you're actually actively engaged in it, because you have to say it back in your words. You're acquiring it for yourself now. So these 3 things, maybe as a start, for a person to start maybe trying to be amol in Torah. And that's the third avodah that I'm setting for us, perhaps the Shavuos, is to be amol in Torah. What does that mean? To try focusing a little longer, writing your questions down and not letting go of them, and reviewing what you learn out loud in your own words, so that you have to make it your own. And that takes a lot of effort. Okay, the 4th thing I wanted to get to about Shavuos is just, what's the order of the day, right? So everyone knows we stay up all night. Everyone's very excited to stay up all night. Some people do, some people don't. Okay, depends on how you feel, what your next day is going to look like. If you don't want to ruin your next day by staying up all night, whether your wife is willing to deal with the kids the next day, maybe. That's in my situation. Baruch Hashem, my wife's willing to deal with my kids the next day. So that night, the Leil Shavuos, when we stay up maybe a little later than we usually do, we're really preparing for the next day's Kabbalas Torah. We're preparing for the next day to receive the Torah. The harder we exert ourselves that night, the more we learn, the more energy we put into the learning on the night of Shavuos, the stronger, more intense, more exciting our actual Kabbalah, the actual reception of the Torah, is going to be the next day. When do we do Kabbalas Torah? It's really during the reading of the Torah on the morning of Shavuos. So a person should actually picture himself when it comes to the morning of Shavuos and they're about to hear Kriyas Torah. Now, usually me, what am I doing at that point? I'm thinking about my bed. That's usually what I'm doing. But a person can push themselves a little bit harder to say, okay, right now, what's the most important thing? It's Kabbalas Torah. I'll get to my bed a little later. Let's push off that thought. Let me focus right now. I'm experiencing Kabbalas Torah. So if you look into what Kabbalas Torah was like, the lightning, the thunder, the incredible nisim that were happening, the fire, it was an incredible visual, immersive experience. Kabbalas Torah. It says each word Hashem said at Kabbalas Torah, a person's neshama would leave them. Hashem had to perform tchis hamesim at each word. It was an incredible experience. So you realize, having a certain level of amunah, that's actually happening when you listen to the reading of the Torah on Shavuos morning. This is actually happening. We may not be able to realize it. We may not be on that level to realize it. But this is what the tzaddikim teach us. That's what's going on during Kriyas Torah of Shavuos. The stronger a person exerts himself in the Torah the night leading up, meaning the night of Shavuos, then the better he'll have, the stronger his Kabbalas Torah will be in the morning, and he may not realize it. He may not realize it. Not something, we're not going for the actual, we're not necessarily going to experience it. But like we said, this is the day that a person is judged for how much Torah he's going to have in the coming year. So just to review, we spoke about how valuable Torah is, how Hashem himself values the Torah as the most precious possession, as if it was an only daughter to him, that the Torah is compared to gold, to silver, to the most valuable possessions a person can have. So I said the first avodah we can have is building an internal sense of value for the Torah, that we have a she'if, a desire to have a connection to the Torah. That's step one. The second step is to daven, to actually express that longing and that desire to Hashem, whatever is holding a person back in having a true connection to the Torah, whether it's not interesting enough, whether it's difficult, he can't focus, his memory is not so good, his mind isn't so quick, he doesn't know Hebrew, whatever it is that's holding him back from his growth in Torah, he should use Shavuos to daven for those issues. And I'm telling you, Hashem gets a lot of nachas from that. Hashem gets a lot of nachas when a person davens, he prays for things having to do with spirituality. The third thing, like I said, is to strive for this level called amelis in Torah, working hard of exerting himself in Torah. I gave 3 ways perhaps one could try: writing his questions down, trying to test himself, to push himself to see how long he could focus for, and third, to review out loud his own words what he learns. And the fourth thing, the specific order of the day of Shavuos. First comes the preparation, when we stay up at least a little bit later trying to learn Torah. And that prepares us for the Kabbalas Torah the morning of. When we hear a Kriyas Torah, we should try to imagine ourselves as if we're really standing at Har Sinai, being Makabel the Torah. Try not to think too much about your bed in the morning. And with Hashem's help, we'll have a very uplifting, exciting Shavuos that will merit to learn more Torah in the coming year. And the Torah should be sweet to all of us. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope everyone has a wonderful Shavuos.